Okay, so welcome back to Architecture 1350. So this is our digital graphics class, and we're mainly going to be working in Adobe. And the Creative Suite programs that we'll be using to start off is Photoshop. Eventually we'll get into InDesign and Muse. But what I wanted to start off is letting you guys know that I will record every lecture. It's nothing fancy, it's just going to be a screen capture with whatever I've said during class. So that way if you happened to miss class, you don't have to email me and say, what did I miss? You can just hop on YouTube, find all the lectures, and kind of go through what we went over in class. And again, maybe you were here, everything worked well while you were here, but then you go home and something's just not working the way that you expected it to. You can always use the video to review it later. Another reason why I like having the YouTube lectures is that sometimes you will use these programs a lot in the semester, but then you won't use the program for like another year, year and a half, 2 years, however long. But I always keep up my lectures open in public for you guys, so you can come back later and view them and watch them and reference them. So they're open to anybody. And as I mentioned, I am going to keep them up in the discussions tab. So I don't have it listed here yet, but you'll just see a link here called YouTube Lectures. And it's going to be a playlist, and essentially every time you click on that playlist, I didn't want to go to you. I guess they wiped this computer. All of my shortcuts are gone. But here is my intro class that I have this semester. But last year, a similar digital graphics class, let's see how many we ended up getting in here. Not this one. This is AutoCAD. I typically like to record all of my lectures, but essentially to look like this, I'll put a link to this playlist. So you can see that by the end of the semester, we'll have a lot more videos versus the beginning of the semester. This is an online class over here, so we already have a few in there, where in this class, we will just have one starting this evening. So look for that link. And again, the point of that is so that you can be independent. You can look at the lectures online, and then you can review Canvas for what to do and kind of take care of your absences on your own. So any questions about that? Okay, do you guys remember where I'll be posting this? Yeah, under discussions. I'll make a new link tonight when I'm done with this, and you guys should see that there. Great. Now, we have a few things to go over tonight, and what I wanted to start with was this practice upload. And the reason why I wanted to start with this is because you will be submitting basically all of your assignments using this Canvas upload. And I'm trying to think if anybody got it 100% right. It's not worth any points, so it's okay. But it was interesting to me to kind of see how people submitted their assignments. So what I want to do is, this again is student view. So what you guys see right now should exactly mimic. So I'm not in instructor view, but this should be what you see. So right here, the one thing I was missing on this, and I apologize, was a rubric. Typically there's a rubric that tells you how much each thing is, but I couldn't create a rubric that wasn't worth any points. So I'll go over rubric with you guys tonight before we go. But for this, I was looking for a text entry and an image. I won't expand on those, but just an image and a text entry. So you can see here, it tells you when it's due, how many points it's worth, and then under submission, 90% of the time, it's just going to be a file upload. And do you see how in this one, it also includes a text entry? So if I were you, I would go to submit assignment, and this, I will admit, is not very intuitive. Right here is file upload, and I think just about everybody got this right. So I will go here to choose file. I don't have, oh my gosh, they've totally wiped my drive. Let's grab something off the internet really quick. Let me do a quick image search. I'm just going to throw it on my desktop. Really bad habit. Do not copy me. So here is that image. Open. And you can see that while I'm here, I can add another file. So in the future, you guys will most likely be turning in your Photoshop file and then maybe a JPEG version of it, or you might be turning in 4 different Photoshop files, right? So you can click on add another file, and let's say that this is a separate file. I can keep adding to it. Now back here, do you see where it says text entry? I can even come here, type my answer, and then once I've got both of those, I can click on Submit Assignment, and I will receive it. So you'll see right here the submission details. So you've got the JPEG, and I will be able to see your text entry. I think if you go to Submission Details, I can't see it here. On your view, if you guys see it, yell at me. But I will show you guys what it looks like on my end, okay? Let's say, for whatever reason, because here's what I'm thinking. I uploaded 2 images and I made a comment and I hit submit. Do you think it got the images and the comment, or just the images? Maybe just the images if we can't see the comment here. So I'm gonna do this. The assignment is still open, it won't be late. I'm gonna click on Resubmit Assignment. I'm going to go to text entry and type here, and now I'm going to hit submit assignment. This helps me kind of understand what you guys see. So over here on submission details, now it shows me the text. Do you guys see that? So I think what may have been happening for some of you, Derek?
I think when you submit the text entry, it stops showing you the files.
Well, what I'm going to do now is switch to instructor view. I see them all. So that person who panics at 2 in the morning and turns in 10 different versions of their assignment, I do have all of them, but they always put the most recent one on top. Okay, so this was your view. Chris, right? Okay. That one's out of order. And I don't know, we didn't get this one to work. Let me ask, Nahela, did I say that right? No. On that one over there? It might be. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and resume the recording, but what I'm gonna do now is leave the student view, and I want you guys to see what I see. So when I log in, it tells me what I have to do. So I have 7 things to still grade, and I'm hoping that one of them is test student. So if there's a green, let me show you guys, this is like what my life revolves around. If there's a green check mark, it means that I have graded it. If the name is gray, it means there's no submission. Or if there's this orange dot, it means this person has submitted and I haven't graded it yet. Test student, so that was me, that's what I just did. Let's pretend this is you. So see how under submission, this one was late, it warned me, but do you see how it is the text that I did? And then when I pull this down, then I can see the images here. So I will see all of your submissions. So if you end up, forgetting to submit something, as long as the assignment is open, you can keep submitting here. Got it? Bless you. So that's what I was looking for. And now, based on my practice, I understand that you couldn't have sent the text entry and the image with one submission. You would have had to do them separately. So that's, at least as an instructor, that isn't very intuitive. So if you have further questions on that, please let me know. Again, this is one of the first things that I like to do. So just to make sure that when these first assignments start coming up, tonight we already have one, I want to make sure you guys are confident in how to upload your assignment. So make sure you hop on that when you guys get a chance. And then let me go back to student view so you guys can see what files we'll be downloading. So let me actually go to this first, Creative Suite download. I was scrambling all over, September 2nd at 12 a.m. That's not right. Let me unlock this for you guys. I love that I can go to student view and see what you see, because on my end, when I see a green light, it means that it's ready to go. Oops. There we go. If you guys hit refresh in Canvas, you guys should be able to access this one now. So I can see it in my student view, so you guys should be able to see it as well. But no joke, I was scrambling around my house trying to see if I could get a Santa Claus hat out of storage, because this is honestly one of the best pieces of news that I've gotten since I've worked here. But Adobe has finally given in, and they are giving you guys free licenses to Creative Cloud. Does anybody in this room understand how huge of a deal this is? Anybody? I honestly, I can't believe it, because about 1.5 years ago, they upped their student subscriptions. And then about 6 months ago, they upped it again. And I was just like, we can't teach our classes without the software, because it would be like a $200, $300 lab fee. And so out of the blue, they were just like, here you guys go. You can have an Adobe license. So what I've done, I've put a link in here that has the instructions on how to download it from home. So essentially, you can download this anywhere now. You don't have to be here on campus. You can be at home. And you'll download it just like normal. But when you go to sign in, this is the most important part. You want to select want to use your company or school account, sign in with Enterprise ID. Did you guys get that? Okay, so I think Derek, last week, did you say that you have Creative Cloud? So that's the kind of glitch here, is that if you already have Creative Cloud and all of your work is on there, I don't know if you can transfer it to this account, but you can't log in with your existing credentials. You have to use your school credentials for this to work. And this is so new, I don't even know how long this is going to work. I don't know if it's just for as long as you're here enrolled at the community college, which is what I'm assuming, because this really is a campus-wide thing. It's not just because you're in this class, but again, it's campus-wide. And then after that, similar to what you guys did tonight, you will use your Bruin Mail account, and then whatever password you use to get into your Bruin account. I don't know so when I log in, my Bruin Mail uses the same password as my page. And I think it's the same for you guys, but that's something that you should probably look into. And then after that, you can do select desktop downloads, Creative Cloud. Okay, so a little bit, I really wanted you guys to see this, because this is going to be one of your first assignments, how to download Creative Cloud. Do you guys want me to stay on this page at all anymore? No? Okay, so yeah, please. Yep, so we already have it here, but now you guys can have your own copy at home. So please download it at home so you can do your homework. Now, after you've downloaded the cloud, let me show you kind of what it looks like. So one thing that's a little bit tricky for me, I'm gonna be completely honest, I use a Mac at home, and so some things are a little bit different when I come here, but in the Creative Cloud, it includes a lot of apps. Let me come back over here. These are the apps. So this doesn't even cover all of it, but it's all of these. Now, we're not using all of these things. We're not using the entire Creative Suite. And so what I've done here is I've just outlined that you only need to download Photoshop, InDesign, and Muse for this part of the semester. So those are the 3 apps that you'll download. And here, so let me slow down a little bit. After you download the Creative Cloud using your credentials, this is what you're going to have on your desktop. It's going to look something like this. Are you guys with me so far? Yeah? Alex, did I lose you? No. Okay. Now, under apps, do you guys see this first tab right here? Okay. Please remember, I'm recording all of this too. I don't have access to manage apps. Oh no, that's embarrassing. So I might have to log in with another ID. I don't know why I would be blocked from my apps, but here I would see the list of all of those programs, Photoshop, InDesign, and over here to the right, it would say something install if it hasn't been installed or update if it has been installed. I'm going to pause the lecture. Let me start recording again. So before we log into Creative Cloud, do you guys see this little, I forgot what it's called, either one of these. It's a magnifying glass, or if you don't see the magnifying glass, there might be a big white bar that says type here to search. Just start typing in the word Photoshop. Does that come up for you? It came up for me. Yeah? Okay. So now try to see once it comes up. So again, what I did is I clicked on the magnifying glass in the lower left-hand corner and I just started typing in Photoshop. Click on it and see if we can open it up. Is it still asking you to sign in? Let me see what mine says. Interesting. So I'm okay here. Do you guys mind? So Tatiana and Abdurrahman, if you guys could click on the X in the upper right corner, will it let you sign or not sign in and still use the software? Interesting. Okay. So it seems like they've downloaded it different ways on different machines. Unless, is everybody asking for the sign in? This is so different. Okay. We kind of have to play by Adobe's rules. So I'm going to pause my lecture one more time. And what we're going to do now is I am going to have you guys try and look up your Bruin email and your password. So what we're going to do is we are going to use that same login information that gets us Adobe for free at home to activate it here in the lab. So for example, let me come back here to this knowledge article. You're going to be using, again, your Bruin email and whatever password you guys have. So let me hit pause for a minute. Good question. So Abdu just asked if you can, how many devices you can have it on. I have it on about 6 devices. And essentially what happens once I log on to like one, like if I have it open and running on one, I can have it open and running on a second one. And by the time I go to my third machine, like this one right here, it'll say you are at the maximum amount of logins. Do you want to sign out of the other machines to sign in here? So you can download it all over, but it'll only let you log in up to 2 or 3 at a time. Yep. Here, do you guys see that you can sign in with an enterprise ID? Do you guys see that? So this is the one that you guys want to click on using your Bruin Mail. As an instructor, I use my SLCC account. Whoops. So we'll see how this goes. I didn't catch it on the recording, but there was a screen that popped up really quickly that said something about an enterprise ID. Will you guys raise your hand if you're having luck with that, even if it's still in the process? Okay, good. Let's see how this goes. It's so crazy. So I guess that would be my second thing to do is after you guys log in, you might not see the apps here. So again, this is going to be a little bit different than what I'm used to. This is our first semester using it this way. Come back to your search and try and see if you can open up Photoshop this way. I was able to get in and I have it open here. Got it? Okay. But in a nutshell, that's what you guys will do at home. The missing link between what we did tonight and what you guys will do at home is that when you guys came here, this version of Creative Cloud was already loaded. So essentially what we had to do was sign in. But again, when you guys go home, you want to not sign in until after you go to Enterprise ID, log in, and then download Creative Cloud. I know it sounds weird, but even though they're both called Creative Cloud, you have to download it using the Enterprise ID version. They work a little bit differently, especially at the login screen. So that's why you want to be logged in first like this, and then get started. So they've even given you a little bit of a screenshot. It should look something like that. So again, this will work on any computer. You can get a Mac version, a Windows version. You can install it on several machines. But if you start running it on more than 3 machines, it'll say, can I sign you out of the others? So you can sign in here. So, and if it's the enterprise one, it might be slightly different, but I'm pretty sure it's going to work really similarly. So this is what the app screen should look like. Remember how I was mentioning the install and then the update? So the difference between those is that if it says install, it means that it's not loaded onto your machine. But you do want to make sure, again, InDesign. Photoshop isn't on here. You know, if this was real, I could scroll down, but you guys want InDesign, Photoshop, and Muse. Those are the 3 that we'll be using. If you're using a computer where you might be worried about space, you can hold off on InDesign for a while because we'll be in Photoshop for at least 5 or 6 weeks, but we'll get there.
Muse is being discontinued. Is that still open?
Why is it being discontinued?
I don't know.
Did it say that it was? Is it? If it's being replaced with something as good, I will be happy. But we'll see how it goes. I'll look into that. I won't make you learn something that will be completely obsolete. But if they're buying something else and repackaging it, then we'll hang out. Essentially what Muse is once you learn like InDesign and Photoshop, you become familiar with how the Adobe interface works. And they've made a really easy web publishing program that's called Muse. So it's essentially like using Photoshop and InDesign together to make a website. And you can throw something together in just a few hours without knowing any coding, and it looks really good. It's not a template that you have to use off the internet. So I've loved it. Derek, you broke my heart. Bearer of bad news. But it's okay. That news does not negate how awesome it is that we have the Creative Cloud now. So let me come back to this. Yeah, sorry. You know, and I don't have it there either. The odd thing is, so that's what I thought was really silly. So on mine, it's saying I don't have access to manage the apps here in the lab, but they did go through. Let me see, InDesign should be up. InDesign is on here too. So what this allows us to do, and actually this is pretty nice that they've done this for us. The reason why they don't want you guys managing the apps in the lab is because these last 2 semesters, we had some students buying Creative Cloud and then some people using the classroom version. So I had half of my class in 2018, half of them in 2019, and then within that 2019 version, I had people even with different updates. And so it made it kind of tricky to work at school and then go work at home because there were so many different versions between them. So this will be kind of nice because we'll just have that one version to work with. Okay. All right, let me come back here real quick, and what I'd like to do is we're going to practice one more submission just to make sure you guys understand. So one of the things that I'm asking for this week, so when we did our practice assignment, I told you that there wasn't a rubric. And what I meant by that is whenever I give you guys an assignment, yes, I tell you how many points it's worth, but just as important as that, I will include a rubric, and it tells you how to earn those points. So for this week, you get 5 points for a screenshot of Adobe Creative Cloud installed, and then another screenshot of Photoshop open and running on your computer. So that's how you get your points for this week. All of our assignments will have a breakdown like that. And as we keep going into the semester, I strongly recommend reading the rubric even before you read the assignment description, because that's how you're going to get your points. So I always feel bad when people miss out on like 5 or 10 points for not turning it in as a PDF or forgetting one portion of it. So remember, the rubric is just as important as the description. But what I wanted to do, in case you don't know, let me ask real quick, how many of you guys are working on a Mac at home? Okay, so just a handful of you. Write this down because I won't be able to show you in lab in case you need to know this. But on a Mac, if you need to take a screenshot, it is Command-Shift-4. And when you hit those three buttons all at the same time, so Command, Shift, and 4, your mouse, instead of it looking like an arrow like this, it turns into crosshairs. And what that means is it wants you to drag a rectangle around the area of your screen that you want to take a screenshot of. So it's not just going to automatically take a screenshot, but it's waiting for you to click and drag and make that screenshot. If you have your sound on, you'll hear like a little picture taking sound, like an aperture. Does anybody use an SLR in here anymore? Does anybody hear that sound? No. Okay. Anyway, outdated sounds. But it makes a sound, and then it'll automatically save it on your desktop, and it has a really long name. It's called like screenshot, and then the date, the time, the second, everything. So it's screenshot, and then a really long number. But for those of you guys who are in the Windows world, I think the easiest thing to do, again, I'm in my search menu, go ahead and type in snip. There's something called the snipping app, and that should be on every Windows machine, the snipping tool. You might use another program to use it, and that's fine, but I just want to show you guys what's available on these machines plus any other Windows machine. So what we're all going to do tonight, just to practice, is I want you all to try and use the snipping tool, and I'm going to have you guys send me a screenshot. It can be a screenshot of whatever you'd like, just, keep it appropriate. But when you click on the snipping tool, it looks like this. Oh my gosh, Derek, there's another thing that's going to be obsolete. It's going to be called Snip and Sketch soon enough. So you might want to, let's see if I already have Snip and Sketch. I do have Snip and Sketch. You guys decide. Either one works. This one's going away. This is the new thing. Come on, Windows, why do you do this to me? So either one works, but what you need to do, see how this says new and that says new? Okay. The way that it works is when you click on new, do you see how my screen kind of is grayed out now? And if you clicked on it, yours might be too. Now, wherever I click and drag, do you see how it's kind of giving me a preview of what I'm about to take a screenshot of? So as soon as I let go, it pulls up what I just took a screenshot of. So now it's up to you to save this and send that to me. So if you were completely off on what you're trying to take a screenshot of, you can discard this. I'm not saving it. Click on new again. And remember, just click and drag, and it should open that up for you. And same thing, there's just a little save button right here. I'm going to pause the lecture again. What I want you guys to do is to try to find a coherent screenshot. So make sure it's something like that, like something that I can read. I already closed it. Not like 4 windows piled on top of one another, but make sure it's like a specific screenshot. And just under the submit assignment, go ahead and submit a screenshot to me. So that way, if it's not working, I can help you here in lab so that you don't go home, get it downloaded, but then not get points because you didn't know how to take a screenshot or how to upload it. If you go back to assignments, there is one called Exploring Image File Formats, number 1. There are several files here for you guys to download. Now, before we get too far, the way that I would like you guys to download these, if you just click on them, what it's going to do, it's going to automatically save it, and it goes into your downloads. But you're going to start to get a lot of stuff in here, and it'll get a little bit messy, and if you're trying to find something, it could be hard. So what I would like you guys to do is, if you wouldn't mind, will you check to see, have any of you guys used your school drive before? It's typically referred to as your T drive. No. Not Google Drive, but it's like specific to school.
What drive?
It's called the T drive, but now it should just have your name on it. Here, let's try this together. If you guys wouldn't mind, come down to the bottom of your screen where we see this file folder and click on it for me. And again, you don't have to do this part at home, but I just want to see here. And then down at the bottom on the on the left, does it say network like it does on my screen? Yes? Click on network and tell me if you guys, just from the computers I'm seeing, it doesn't look like we're connected to it. Okay. Click on this PC. So 2 up from that one. I'm going to try to find it for you. Do you guys have this PC tab? Maybe? Yeah? Okay. Under this PC, under network locations, yours will look different than mine because I'm an instructor. Do you see something there that has the same initials and last name that you guys used to log into the machine tonight? Okay, so that's referred to as your T or student drive. And the reason why that is a nice drive to use is, for example, that drive doesn't live on Connor's computer right there. That lives in our network across the hall. So if Connor saves there, Connor, will you give me the name of whatever your drive is? Is it like C?
CDAUGHTR.
Okay, will you pronounce that for me? C?
It's doctor without the Y.
Okay.
They actually cut the last letter off.
That's so weird. They couldn't afford the extra letter. So, okay, I'm going to give you mine because it's easier for me to remember. So I'm N Nawabi. So if I had one, I would see a drive called N Nawabi or N Nawab if they didn't have the last letter. And the thing that's nice about it is that whether I'm sitting here or there or even in the lab across the hall here or across the hall there, you will be able to get your files. So I always feel so bad when students come in and, Alex, if you're sitting here, they're like, oh, can you log off real quick so I can get my files? They're on that computer. You don't have to worry about that if you're here and saving onto these network drives. Now, I don't think that these are available from home. I don't think that they are. I think they're only available here. But if you want to access your files at home, I don't know if our Creative Cloud has any storage. Again, I've only known about this for a little bit. I'll see if we can. But Abdurrahman, you mentioned Google Drive. You can also save on Google Drive, your OneCloud, or OneDrive, whatever it is if you want to have remote access. But at the very least, I do want you to use your network location. So again, I don't... You're a staff now, right? So I'm not sure where yours will be. I will ask David about that. So if you want to use it, you can. I'll send David or Jameson an email to see where yours might be. But in the meantime, here's what I'd like you guys to do. On that drive, create a new folder. And you guys can call it Digital Graphics, DG, whatever. But I'm going to call it DG 1350. And because I teach a lot, I actually have to put the year and the semester. You guys will only have to take this once, so you guys might not have to worry about that. And I'm going to skip ahead just a little bit, but I am considering tonight's class, or this, the first week. So pretty much everything from tonight I'm going to put as 01. So this will be our first folder. And then everything from tonight, if you guys can put it in there. I just think that's a good way to start organizing. So let me go to view and do new. Does anybody know? Oh wait, details pane. I think that's what I'm looking for. No. Does anybody know if in Windows I can show like the main folder, the subfolder, and then all the files in it? No? Okay. Maybe not. Again, like I said, some of these things I don't know everything about, but I will.
There are some boxes in view on the right side.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
On the right side.
On the right side?
I can check it out.
Under which one? Under options?
Yeah, click on the options.
Uh-huh.
Oh.
Not that one?
What about file name extensions?
Not that one. I don't need that one. Let me see. Let me go to details pane should be it, but not quite. That's okay. Let me go back. Sometimes I just kind of like to see where things are nested. Let me go through one more time. I was trying to make it so you guys could see everything. So again, create a folder for this class, name it whatever works for you. And then I just made a folder called 01 because it's what I'm considering the first week. And then you can put everything in there. And so once you have the folder created, what you would do now, instead of clicking on it, it'll automatically go to downloads if you click on it. So do this for me, please. What you're going to do is right click, and then you should be able to go to save link as. Let's make sure that that's, yep, that's the JPEG image. And I'm going to put it right in here. So I'm going to go ahead and pause the lecture and give you guys some time to download all of these images, and then we'll walk through them together. To let me know that you're ready, go ahead and open up in Photoshop let's do, oh my gosh, do the JPEG of the Photoshop example. So there's a Photoshop one and there's a JPEG. Let's start with the JPEG. Oh, and let me know if you get this screen.
Is it the one where you are giant?
That's me. Did anybody get this screen when they tried to open the JPEG for the first time? Okay. Weird, why is my computer not being nice? Okay. And then just to make sure that it's Photoshop example JPEG, not the others. And that'll just let me know that you're ready.
Do we open it in Photoshop?
People might be wondering when they go home. So when I first opened mine, it was the first time Photoshop opened a JPEG, and it asked me a question like, in the future, use this program to always open these files or something like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change it back to the default, which was photos. But it didn't ask me that question. That was like, hey, use this forever. Let me see if I can. Again, I'm not super good with these. Let me see if there's a way that I can say. Oh, so do you see where it says always use this app? I'll click on photos and do always use this app. I'll close. Does my screen look like your screen now? So what I was doing was essentially resetting the default program to open them. Photoshop takes a minute to open, and so if you have a slower computer, you might not want to open up every JPEG that like your cousin or your aunt or your boss sends you. So I wouldn't be offended if you didn't change it to be your default program. Okay. All right. I'm going to go ahead and keep going, and what I'll do is come back and meet you guys here. But this is, I'm just going to assume that this is everybody's first time looking at Photoshop. It might not be, but what I like to do right off the bat is just to kind of teach you what we're looking at in the environment, since this is the first time you're seeing your screen. When we first start working, it's really important to me that your screen looks like my screen, so that when I click on something, you don't have to, go to a completely different area to click on the same thing. So just right off the bat, I want to get our screens to kind of look the same. So by default, at home and here in lab, this is what Photoshop gives you when it first opens up. Now, one thing I don't like about this is their menus right now are taking about 1/3 of my working space, right? So I've got this Learn panel, color swatches, and then this other one right here. Just to let you guys know, right now I have 1, this is 2, and this is 3 tabs that I can close down. Now the Learn Photoshop, I'm going to completely shut down. Okay, and the reason why I do that is because you guys are in a class. I'm going to teach you guys Photoshop, so you don't need this assistant. So there's a couple ways of doing this, and I want all of you guys to do it. One of them is just to kind of push it to the right. But see how it's not entirely gone yet? I want it to just be gone for now. And do you see where I'm pointing on my screen? It's really subtle, but it almost looks like there are little darker gray dots. If you push down on that with your mouse and drag, you can actually pull these out of the menu that they're in and then close them. If there's an easier way to do that, do it the easier way. That's just how I do it, how to kind of really shut them down. So now I've really gotten that entire inch back. So I had to do it twice for both of those tabs. So I got rid of the learning panel and I think the libraries. And now I've got these other kind of expanded panels, and then I've got my history right here. Okay, and again, this arrow up top makes it larger or smaller. Now I'm happy to just stick right here. This works for me. Okay, more often than not, I will always be in what's called the collapsed panel. Because until I start working on these, I don't necessarily need to see all of the information, okay? But again, as the semester goes on, even just like 2 weeks from now, once you get familiar with what lives where, then you can start kind of customizing your screen. But for these first few weeks, it just helps if we look the same, okay? So again, you guys can just meet me here. So that's the first thing that I wanted to show you guys, where your menus are. Now, if you ever end up accidentally getting rid of everything, so see how everything's gone now, you could always come back and go to Window, Workspace, and it should be under Essentials Default. I'm going to change it to something else and then bring it back to the default. Okay, no, that did not go well. I can't believe it's going to make me open everything again. Let me do Reset Essentials. Do you see that button down here? I'm going to reset. So this is what we're really looking for. So see how I'm kind of back to where we were at the beginning of class? But that might happen sometimes. You might accidentally close out everything and then you might want to bring it all back, and that's what I want to do right now. So I will get rid of these. Let me post that back in there. So again, if you are at home or even in the lab and you lose all of your menus on the right side, what menu do you want to go to on the top?
Window.
Yep, you want to go to Window, and from there, where do we go? Yep, good. So Reset Essentials. And sometimes, I don't know, you might have annoying roommates, old or young. They might be your kids, they might be your brothers, sisters, parents. They might reset this. I've never even seen painting before, you know, so if anything ever gets reset, just know that here we work in Essentials Default, and if you're still not getting what you want, just go back to Reset Essentials. And over time, if you get really comfortable with a certain work set, like if I end up really liking this, as I typically do, you can actually come here under your workspace and save it. So I'm going to go and do New Workspace. I'm going to call this NYMA 1350. So now if I go here to Workspaces, I've also got NYMA 1350. Okay, so it's just kind of up to you. But for now, this is really what I'm looking for. The other thing that's important about the Adobe interface is that over here on the left side, we essentially have all of our this is like our toolkit or our toolbox. So all of the shortcuts that we talk about are over here, and they're a graphic icon or a keyboard shortcut. So we can click on it. So for example, the Move tool. Do you see that in this little preview it's giving us? it also shows in the brackets that you can hit the V key and get to the move tool as well. When we come down a little bit, we've also got the crop tool. What's the shortcut for that? Good. Let me jump down to another one. What's the clone stamp tool shortcut? Mm-hmm. And I love this because, as you can see, I'm just hovering over this with my mouse. It gives you a little preview of what that tool does. So every week we'll be learning new tools, sometimes multiple tools per class. But tonight it's really just an introduction on the interface of the program and how to work with the files. Hayden? Not yet. Soon enough. Really close, I promise. But you're probably wondering why we're not just jumping in and messing around with it. I mean, I think that's the best way to learn, just kind of jumping in and messing around, and I'm completely open to that. But the thing about, there's a couple things with that. There are so many tools in Photoshop, in most of these Adobe tools, because really, Adobe software is mainly geared towards people who are going into graphic design and marketing, those types of fields. So they are design fields, but they're not architectural design fields. So we wanted to make sure that in this program, you guys are learning Photoshop and InDesign as it will relate to you in the field. There are other classes that teach Photoshop that aren't in our program, but I've seen their final teaches you how to do like a beautiful UTA program. Like what I mean by that, it's like a booklet for the UTA buses. So there's like a map and a schedule, and it looks really good, but it doesn't really show that you're an architect. So we're really going to use it for architectural reasons. And Hayden, I know you're pressing lots of buttons because you look way too excited back there.
I just like seeing what the whatever does. Like
The little previews there. It's a really fun program to learn and use. The other part of it too is that we have a really different palette that we're working with. So I think I could say that all of us here have worked in Microsoft Word, right? So in Microsoft Word, it's really basic. You have a piece of paper, could be an 8.5 by 11, 11 by 17, and you type and you print it and you're done. Really straightforward. You could even print it to a PDF or save it as a PDF, right? There's really not that much to it. But when we're using Photoshop, we have to kind of think ahead and think, okay, is this going on just the web? Am I going to be printing this out? And remember, as an architect, if you look at our table here, these big boards were done in this class. Our projects are a little bit different, but this is what we use the program for. So you kind of have to think about those things. And the size and how you're going to export your file makes a really big difference in how you use the software. So that's why, to start off, I had you guys download all of these different images because I wanted to have you guys start to understand file size when it comes to the digital realm and how it affects us if we want to actually print it out. So let's start here with this Photoshop example. When we're using Photoshop, or even not just Photoshop, but can you guys yell out some file types that somebody may have emailed to you or you may have downloaded that are just images?
JPEG.
Yep, JPEG is really common. What else? PDF, good. What else? PNG, yep. So PNG and GIF are kind of like cousins. Okay. Has anybody here heard of a TIFF file, a TIF?
Yeah.
Okay, so TIFF is huge. I feel like I'm missing one. Those are really the big ones. And I'm going to take PDF2 off of this. But graphically speaking, in this class, these three are the most common files that we will be saving as to share with other people, okay? In Photoshop, the actual file is a PSD. It stands for Photoshop Document, PSD. So when you're looking through your files and you see a .psd, that means it's the Photoshop file. One of the things that we'll look at tonight is the difference between like a JPEG versus a Photoshop file, what makes them different, because they do have some differences. But before we do that, I'm going to hang out in JPEGs for a bit because that's really the most common thing. It's most likely the images that your phone takes. It's usually what you're downloading off the internet if I ask you guys to get examples. So we're going to see how images come into Photoshop to begin with. So here, one thing to remember, tonight's class, we're not opening anything new and working on it. We're opening up existing documents and just kind of snooping around. Next week when we come in, we'll start doing some new content. But honest to goodness, for the most part, we're taking existing stuff and kind of mashing it with other stuff. Graphic designers create most of the new content where we are editing it. So just a quick note. So where I want you guys to meet me is click on image and let's go to image size. Everybody found that okay? So image size. All right, so tonight's class, the reason why it's not very fun is I tend to just talk a lot tonight, so I apologize. In most of my classes, I like you guys to talk and work. This is one of our almost strictly lecture classes before we start having fun. Yawn jar. You know how there's swear jars? Has anybody had a night class with me before? Derek, was yours at night? No, it was like late afternoon. Any other evening people? Sure, but I have a yawn jar similar to a swear jar. So let me talk about what file size is. So the first thing is the actual image size. So it's 2.15 M, which stands for, is it megabytes? Yeah, it's changed so much that I'm like, now if you see a file that's a gig, that used to be big, but it's not that big anymore. But that's telling you the actual file size that takes up room on your computer. So this to me is actually a pretty small file size, especially if you look at how, we'll take a look in a minute how big phone pictures are now depending on your phone. Those of you guys who are still like rocking an iPhone 5 or 4, good on ya. I had to keep replacing mine, or whatever you're with now, but most newer cameras take pretty large images. So first it gives it to us in the actual file size that you'll see on your computer. And then it gives us the dimensions, but those aren't inches, right? The px. Anybody know pixel? Yeah, so it's giving it to us in pixel. Again, you guys are designers, well, architects. You're not necessarily graphic designers. So what on earth is a pixel? So what I'm going to do right now, I'm going to skip ahead a little bit. So this is telling us how big it is. It's 1,000 pixels by 750 pixels. You guys got that? If I go down a little bit further, do you see something called resolution? Okay. So what I would like to do is just to quickly kind of give you a nutshell explanation on why those numbers matter. Because right now, so here's this image that's 1,000 by 750 pixels, right? And this is telling me the resolution is 72 pixels per inch. So let's just say that this right here is equivalent to an inch, all right? Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that inch and I'm going to make it really big. Everybody with me so far? So this is an inch blown up. What this is telling me is that within this pixel, I don't think I can get it right, but there are 72 of these pixels. Does that make sense? So there's just enough of these to make 72. So if I were being really exact, is it 9 times 8, 72? Yes, I got it. No? 9 times 7?
Square with 72 pixels on each side.
That's not the answer I was looking for. I was just trying to make a good grid so that I would know that I'd get 72. But what we're going for, what was that? Okay, it's too late for me to do math. Sorry, Derek. I'm gonna try. But essentially what this is just imagine it like those little squares, like kind of what you see when you're playing really old video games at retro arcades or wherever. So 72 pixels per inch. 72, it's subjective. It might sound like a really low number to you. It might sound really high. But just know that when you are trying to print stuff, 72 is low. It works well for a screen. So 72 is good for anything that you want to view on the internet or just email to somebody. But if you ever wanted to print it, that's a little bit low, okay? As we start working with different images, you will see that we will even get up to, let me do this one. In our class, to be completely honest, 300 is like 300 DPI is considered a large image size. And the reason why is that most of us typically get our resources from the internet. If we were all taking images with like digital SLRs, then we could easily get this high resolution. But 300 is considered high. So instead of having, so imagine, see this grid right here, how it's at 72? To make math easy for me, I'm going to round this up to 100. So we're at 100 DPI. How many more dots per inch does the 300 have?
400.
How many times as much?
4.
3. Because we're going from 100 to 300. Math is hard at night. I'm telling you, math is really hard at night. But it's 3 times as many pixels. And so, do you see this grid right here? Let's say this represents 100. That means that over here on that side, let me just steal this little square right here. So here, this would essentially be divided 3 more times. Okay, so you get that much more detail in it. So think about a paintbrush, right? If you had a canvas this big and you had to paint, if your paintbrush was this big, this is, let's say, the 100 DPI, right? You are not getting that much detail because there's not that many pixels or not that many dots for the canvas. Where if you go somewhere like this, okay, 300, that's so many more dots per inch. So you went from having a brush that was this big to 1/3 of the size. So you're going to be able to stipple in a lot more detail. Do you guys see the difference between the two? So the difference between the 72, or I rounded up to 100, is that this looks really good on a screen. And almost everything we do is on a screen now, whether it's an iPad or a computer here, your Surface Pros. We're starting to get into things called retina displays, which means that even the 72 DPI is going to look maybe a little bit fuzzy on your computer. But for now, 72 to 100 is great for a screen. And then high resolution for printing, we will be between, I'm going to put 150 and 300. Okay? So this is something that we will continue going over. But I just wanted to kind of give you guys the introduction so that your heart won't be broken if you find the perfect image on the internet, but it's way too small. Okay, so one of the things that we'll start looking at is just image size.
So, are those numbers on the square on the left pixels?
Yep, so all of these are pixels. So 300 pixels per inch or 72 pixels per
I have
inch.
a question. So, between the first example and the second example, which one has a better quality?
It would be 300. So let me go back to the brush. So with your brush, with this one right here, because I'm rounding it to 100, the example that I give is that you only have 100 dots per inch. So that would be your brush size. So could you imagine if you were trying to draw like a really straight curve with a brush this big, or even pixels are almost like squares, it would end up kind of not looking very curved. But if you had a brush that was like a fingertip, then you could start getting really fine lines out of it. So there's a lot more detail in here because you have that many more squares to fill. Okay, and we'll even zoom in on some of these photos so you can see the difference. So this is just our first example. What I'd like you guys to do now is go ahead and open up RSL 1 and RSL 2. I'm going to show you a little trick, so let me show this to you 2 different ways. If you're in Photoshop, you can go to File, Open. And if you wanted to open more than one document at a time, you can just take your cursor and kind of drag it over both of them, or hold the Control key down. And then that way you can get both of them at once. If you have your File Explorer here, you can do that same thing, RSL 1 and 2, and I have to do the Open with. So right click, bless you. Okay, it won't let me do an Open with multiple files. See the things I learn. I'll just do it from here. Okay, so what I would like you guys to do, just kind of with your neighbors that you have either across from you or in your quad, I want you to kind of analyze the photo. So first, tell me the file size of each one. Tell me the resolution. So file size and resolution, that should be just fine. Oh, and also give me the, I think the second one down, they're really similar. It's like file size and image size. The dimensions, that's the other thing. So file size, I'm going to squeeze dimensions in here just so it's in order. Okay, so RSL 1 and RSL 2. And I will be right back. All right, here's where I get to be really proud and brag for a minute. But these pictures were taken by my little sister. So yeah, I'm really proud of her. She always wanted to be a photographer, and she kind of hustled her way onto the RSL field. So now she's a photographer for Real Salt Lake, the Royals, the Monarchs, and she also does some jazz photos. And now, like, random people want her to come take pictures. Like, this is the place. So that's my proud moment. But the reason why I have these two examples up, so first let me ask you guys this. Let me back up a little bit. RSL, which one was bigger, RSL 1 or 2? 1, okay. What was the file size of RSL 1?
68.7 megabytes.
That's huge. Okay, is that halfway towards it again? I'm bad at math. Yes, it's about halfway. No? Dang it, not even. So it'd be at like 500. Yeah, okay, not close, but math is hard at night. I will get there. What about RSL 2? How big was that one?
I think it's 441 kilobytes.
Yeah, so tiny, right? I was hoping that these would be the exact same image, and I really thought they were, but they aren't. I think these are, yep, obviously 2 different games. They're all in different positions, I think. But the difference between these two is that this is what Facebook does to an image versus what her camera takes. So RSL 1, which I believe is the larger one, let me look at the image size. So this is 6,000 by 4,000 pixels. It's 83 inches by 55 inches. So this thing is like a big screen TV. Now, typically we would never look at a picture this big. So what it's doing is it's given us this giant image that we could put on a screen with only 72 pixels per inch, but we have all of this size and like pixels to spare. So we could take this to, for example, 300 pixels per inch and see how this gets huge, but we could shrink it down to even like 36 by 24 inches without losing a lot of the actual resolution that the picture had to begin with. So this is what it looks like, the actual image size and file size when it comes off of her camera. Let me go back to that. Okay, so really big pixels, the resolution's huge, but then once she posts it on Facebook or Instagram for people to see, possibly save, take a look at what happens to it then. It's significantly smaller, right? I should have grabbed an Instagram photo too. I think this one's Facebook, but she had another one on Instagram that was really, really small. And so the internet just doesn't house large photos like the original one that I showed you. So it will always sample them down so that, you know, whether it's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, whatever server it's on, it gets to kind of shrink it down to save up their space. Sometimes it gives you an option whether you want to post it as a large file or a small file. For example, in Canvas, my images have to be tiny if I actually want to post an image on my Canvas account. We can also do this. This is kind of silly, but here on this image, do you see how these, let me do this real quick. I'm gonna zoom in a little bit more. So just on my screen, see how these look on my screen roughly the same size as I go back and forth? Okay, but take a look at this. Do you see that this image, I've actually already zoomed in 100%? Do you see how it says that right there? What about this image? How far have I zoomed in? Only 25%. So what I'm doing right now, there's a couple different ways of doing this. If you hold the Alt key down and rollerball up, you can zoom in. Okay, so let's see. I don't know any of these guys. The roster is so new. I only recognize Ramondo right now. Sorry, guys. Okay, so I can get pretty close in and see, you know, what Ramondo's looking like. Whereas on RSL2, here's Ramondo again. If I zoom in here, take a look at how pixelated he looks when I get that close. So Abdurrahman, I hope that that answers your question. If you take a look, you know, even though they're both the same DPI in this case, one image just has the actual dimensions is so much larger that we get more detail out of it. Coming back to this one. So this one again, let me zoom in a little bit more. So again, that's Alt. So I can get up to 328%, and it's not horrible. But here, if I zoom into his face about the same, I'm already at almost 2000%, and he looks like an abstract tattoo from here. So that's kind of some file sizes. Now, if you've zoomed in a lot, like 1000%, a shortcut that I love is Control-0. That does a zoom all. So Control-0 if you're on a Mac, Command-0. I have not found a mouse shortcut that does that same thing. So if you find one, let me know. But in all my time, I haven't found one. Oh, okay. And then same here for this one. Control-0 just goes ahead and centers everything. So using your mouse, if you have a roller ball and you want to zoom in, what key do you hold down? Alt. Good. Hold the Alt key, zoom in and out. If you get kind of lost and you're like, oh, that's not Ramondo, I don't know who this dude is. Anybody? Any RSL fans here? Who? Rick, translate for me. Is Hayden making trouble? Sabrina, is Hayden making trouble? Okay, I can't even tell if it's Hayden, but I heard a mumble. I don't know who it is, but how do I zoom all the way out without having to rollerball? Control-0, close. Control-0, we'll get there. So Control-0 and then an Alt scroll will kind of get you guys around. In either one of these files, what I want you guys to take a look at is go to your layers, and you'll see that your background layer, there's essentially only one layer, and it should say background and locked, right? And this is pretty typical of most JPEGs. This might not mean anything yet, but it should mean something in just a moment. Let's hop back over to our Photoshop example. Is your layers tab still open? Yeah? And how many layers do you have? Yep, background, and it's most likely locked, right? So whenever you get a JPEG, whether it's from me, from your phone, the internet, whatever, it will most likely be on background layer and locked. So not very exciting, but just something that you need to know because again, Most of what we are doing in this class is taking existing images and putting them together to create content. And what I mean by that is we aren't going into a program like Illustrator and making objects, like whether it be like cool lightning bolts or logos. That's not what we're doing here. Again, we're taking images and mixing them up together. Let's go ahead and go back to our folder here. And I want you guys to open up the Photoshop example. That's the actual Photoshop files. Okay? So it's going to look the exact same on the screen, but take a look at the layers and let's see what we can do with these.
The other ones are not locked.
Say that one more time.
The other ones are not locked, just the background.
Yeah, that's what you'll see. And then somebody over here, who was that? Hayden?
What do you just want to have fun with it now?
Yeah, just open it up. Not yet, Hayden. Is anybody not having fun? You're implying that we're not having fun yet. Good answer. No, I'm going to show you guys how to move stuff around. This is just like a quick how to control your layers. And really with me, the classes that I teach, I do like you guys just to kind of crash in there, press all the buttons you want. But for some other people, it makes them nervous, so I like to slow down just a little bit. This class moves exponentially. It's kind of slow, and then it goes fast, I hope. But here, was everybody able to find these layer controls okay? Or sorry, their layer menu? Okay. If you have, right now, put your cursor on your screen, kind of find it, and what does it look like? Is it a crosshair? What is it? See how mine looks like a plus sign? Okay. Let me help you guys out. Everybody hit the V key. And this is what I want your cursor to look like 95% of the time. What key did I hit? V. And V stands for this move tool right here. This will be the same in InDesign. So there's going to be a couple shortcuts that will be bilingual. It will work here and also in InDesign. And the reason why I like you guys to be here is right now we're just kind of moving stuff, but we're not editing anything. So it's like moving papers around, but we're not painting, we're not trimming, we're not cutting. So if I have the move tool on, what's the shortcut? V, good. Now if I come and I grab the Salt Lake Community College, okay, I don't think it's tricky, but something to think about. Does this look like it's part of the Salt Lake Community College logo? It kind of does, but there's no pixels there. You actually have to click on a colored part of the logo in order to move it. Okay? Do you guys also see, are you guys shocked this isn't my body? I am. I'm still waiting. Like, what the hell, man? So, swear jar? Sorry. Do you guys also see that as you move objects around, what happens to your layer panel when you click on the logo? It selects it, and it's so subtle. How do you know it's selected? What color does it turn? Is it like bright white, highlighted, flashing at you? It's just like this light gray. I think it's so subtle. So if you click on my face, what layer is that called, by the way? Yeah, I'll get there. I'll try to earn it. But yeah, you can move my head around. You can grab this professional outfit. Let's say, see how, well, let me move my head back on here. Whatever, we'll move the head later. Grab this professional outfit. So I'm essentially a giant on campus right now, right? Like I'm really tall. You guys were thinking tall. Okay. Yes, I'm just going to show you a really quick shortcut. We're going to learn this later. If it doesn't work tonight, that's okay. It'll work next class. Everybody hit Control T for me. And if you had professional outfit, if that's the one that was highlighted, does your screen look like my screen, where now there's like a blue box around it and toggle points? If not, I'm going to hit Escape. When in doubt, Escape is our oh crap key. Just hit Escape, okay? So again, professional outfit, hit Control and T at the same time. Control T stands for transform. So T for transform. And now notice that if you grab the corner toggles, well, I lied. The corner toggles should be somewhat symmetrical. Okay? If I wanted to base this in oh, it's always being symmetrical. Ooh, okay. I'm gonna unclick this. So do you guys see where I'm clicking right now? Let me try to do one other thing. Okay, so you can either click this little chain here, which keep things proportional. We almost always keep things proportional. Okay, but let's also make it a little bit believable tonight. So I'm gonna unclick this. Oh, dang it. Come on. Okay, I'm holding the shift key. I'm kind of lying. And now, you know, my mom's all about like positive body image and embracing who you are. So I'm going to show her this and be like, look what I did just for you this semester. Okay. But really, in reality, it should be proportional. So, you know, if you wanted to make the community college logo bigger, what's my shortcut? Control T. And if I wanted to be awesome and flip it, if you go to the corner, you'll get like a little curved arrow. Woo! Okay. Super exciting. Now, if at any point you are unhappy with your work, do you remember this little history tool we kept open? This is where all of your secrets are. So what I'm doing real quick, I'm clicking on history, and I like to pull this down far. So this is the history button. And down towards the bottom, I made mine really long. Do you see that if you click kind of on this darker line, you get a double-headed arrow? I can pull this down, and basically I've just moved a whole bunch of stuff. And you can click on each one of these things and see what you've done. Okay, so I'm rejecting body positivity, and I'm coming back to this. I'm gonna live in my delusion. I like it here. You're welcome to join me. Okay, some of your computers are mad, that's okay.
It goes back up. When you drag it down, you see
No, it should stay. Oh yeah, so it undoes everything. So this is really just a long undo button. So it'll get rid of all this stuff here, or all the stuff you did previously. Okay, so just a quick recap. What keyboard button should you be at 95% of the time? V. What does it stand for? Move. Yep, it just moves stuff around. Has anybody here taken maybe Photoshop in high school, like a long time ago? Okay. Back in the day, did you guys actually have to go and click on each layer to move it? Does anybody remember that? I'm from that generation where you'd actually have to go to your layer menu, find what you want to move, and then move it. You couldn't just click on something on your screen. It didn't know that. And before that, I'm like that old lady that had to walk uphill both ways to school. But before that, you'd even have to right click and select everything. Now, just whatever your mouse clicks on, that will be fair game to move. So V is where we want to be. And what was the really easy transformation tool I taught you? Control T. And that stands for transformation. And we won't be doing transformations again for about a week or two, but that's kind of a fun default to come back to if you're trying to, I don't know, live in delusion. I'm not quite sure. But again, this was really to show you guys that in a PSD file, when we save it as a JPEG, so I'm back at the JPEG, it compresses everything. So it loses all of its layers, okay? Let's also look at the image size. So under image size, the dimensions are 1000 by 750, and it's about 2.15, so I'm just gonna say 2 megs, okay? Coming back to the Photoshop file, remember all I did between these two files was a save as. This image size here is still 1000 by 750, and I'm still at 2.15 megs. Now sometimes you will see when we get into larger projects, this one, there wasn't any difference. And I think the reason why I actually got all of my pictures off of the internet, that has something to do with it. But if you take pictures, that was a big yawn jar, Hayden. If you take pictures like a Nikon RSL image and just put NYMA heads on everybody, the difference between the original file and the JPEG that you save will be significantly different. So PSD files just tend to be a little bit heavier. So I can see that people are starting to fade out really quickly. Do one other favor for me before you guys completely zone out. I'm going to show you guys the SLCC bug stat. So let's open that one. Okay, so we're gonna do this and a couple other things, and then I will let you guys go for the evening. Looks like most of you guys have it open. So this next thing that I'm gonna talk about, you can perfectly see it on my screen, but this might be a new concept for you guys. Does this image look like it has a checkerboard pattern in the back? Like this one right here, the gray and white checkerboard, do you guys see that? Okay, so in Photoshop and InDesign and a couple other programs, when you see that, it doesn't mean that it's going to print like a checkerboard, but what that means is it's transparent. So that if you come to a file like this, do you see how there's not a white? Have a good night, Kristen. Are you heading out?
Yeah.
I might be leaving maybe in 10 minutes. We don't know. We're fading out fast. We'll see. I'll catch up with you tomorrow. You know, and I'm being peppy. I'm trying to be peppy. I'm trying. I'm gonna like fall asleep on my ride home from all the energy I'm using. This is Kristen. She's an AutoCAD instructor across the hall, so say hi when you see her. Have a good night.
You too.
I'll come observe in a bit.
Jealous of your parking spot, by the way.
I know, best parking spot ever. Shade and everything.
You're early.
4 o'clock. See you, Kristen. Have a good night. So see how right here on this logo, there's no like white box or white rectangle around it? So this has transparent pixels. Do you guys understand the difference between transparent and white? Right? So that window is transparent. I can see through it. That wall is white. Anybody seen Borat? The shirt is black knot. Oh my gosh. I have so many worse jokes than that. We're just getting started, sorry. But that's the difference. I know, I'm sorry. It's getting late. Look it up. It's funny, I swear. Maybe not this late at night. But the difference between white pixels and transparent pixels is that transparent pixels you won't see. So the space on the image still exists, so you can still get like a square shape or rectangular shape, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it has to be taken up by white pixels. So it'll just be transparent. That's why, again, on this example here, oops, I keep coming to the JPEG instead of the PSD, I can move it around. Now, transparent pixels do not exist in JPEGs. So as soon as I take this PNG file, that's on our list. So PNG has transparency, but JPEGs do not. Okay? So again, does transparency or invisibility exist with JPEGs? Nope. Only PNGs and PSDs. We can do that. All right. Now, I really see that you guys are fading out fast. So the last thing that I'm going to have you guys do is take a look at my iPhone and Nikon image. So the iPhone photo is from my phone. I want you guys to see how big it is, all of the constraints I wrote up here, and also the same with the Nikon. So the Nikon is a really nice camera that we have here at school to take pictures of your projects. So if you ever need to use those for future portfolio use, that's here for you. And then while you guys are looking that up, I didn't need to do that. So here's what I would like you guys to do for your assignment. And this class, so I hardly will ever assign homework on a Monday night to be due Wednesday, because to me that's the next day. So I typically will assign homework Monday to Monday or Wednesday to Monday, so you at least have a weekend to do it. And since we don't have class on Monday, that's why it's due in a really long time, because I didn't want to just give you a day to do it. So it looks like it's due in a long time because we don't have class a week from tonight. But I want you guys to upload an image taken from your phone and tell me the dimensions of it. So this goes back to the beginning of class. So you're going to submit an image, and then you're going to submit either a comment or a text entry about the dimensions of your file. So we're going to find out really quickly if you have a really nice camera phone, an okay camera phone, or maybe you have a flip phone. I don't know. If you don't have a phone camera, I want you to use any sort of digital camera that you might have at home to use, okay? The other thing is, go online and find an image too, and do that same thing. Tell me how large it is. And then last thing, social media image. So go on any social media site, Facebook, Twitter, just TikTok, do images, I don't know, Snapchat, any one of those things, and tell me how large the file is too. Okay.
Do any image have like all the information about the image file, or we would have to open it?
You'd have to open it in Photoshop. Yeah, there are, so in, I think if I go to properties, there might be some information. So see how there's some, like it tells me how big it is, but it doesn't tell me like the resolution or how many pixels by how many pixels. So I would like it if you guys used Photoshop to do it. And I'm hoping that all of you guys will have it downloaded at home to do before the due date. And if not, you can always use the lab computers, because I know that sometimes downloading gets a little tricky. So, all right, so that will be your assignment for the week, along with doing the Creative Suite download. Okay, so both of these are open until right after, what is that holiday? Is it Labor Day? Labor Day. And the other thing I wanted to just point out to you guys, with all of my assignments, I hope this isn't confusing, so I just wanted to explain it tonight. So I'm going to put this up on the board. Let's say that I'm going to put Monday, Wednesday, and then Monday, Wednesday, and then Monday, Wednesday. So this is essentially 3 weeks, right? So what I mentioned is that I will assign stuff on Monday. I won't have it due Wednesday because that's mean. It'll either be due this day or that day, so you have a weekend to work on it. Does that make sense? So this is when it's assigned, and I'm going to put stars here because this is when it's due. That's the due date, this one or this one. I will almost always keep the assignment open for 1 week after. So whether it's this day or this day, it's still open. And the reason why I do that is because, again, remember our Kumbaya session last week? You guys have a life outside of here, so I don't expect you guys to be here every single time. I'm assuming that at least every class, maybe 1, maybe 2 of you guys will be gone. And that way I don't have to open up the assignment for you guys. This just gives you kind of the luxury of using that extra week to turn it in. Maybe you were here and you got busy. So every semester I let you guys turn in your assignment late, like 1 or 2 times. It's not a big deal. To be completely transparent, I rarely ever take a penalty off of it. But if you do it more than twice, then I'll just send you an image like, hey, not an image, I'll send you a note that just says, I'm noticing that you're turning in your assignments kind of consistently late. Let's try not to do that anymore. And then I'll just start taking the penalty. I'd rather you guys have you turn it in late than not turn it in at all. Okay? So that's why you'll see it open for another week after. Any questions about that? Or what to do? Okay? That's it for tonight.